All right. Hello, everybody. Today on How to Win at Everything, we have a family friend and obviously an entrepreneur and a podcaster, and we're going to call her April Patterson.
Yes.
Have you ever wondered why you struggle to find success or fulfillment or lasting happiness? It's probably because your default wiring is set to lose. The How to Win at Everything podcast looks at real people who have struggled with the same insecurities, fears, doubts, and expectations and found a way to succeed. Why? Their brains are rewired for success. We dive into their thought patterns to show you how to rewire your own brain to win at everything.
I love it.
All right, all
Welcome.
right. Look, that's the limits of my expertise in editing, so I feel like we got to play that before we get into it good.
I think that
So,
was amazing. Very nice.
so April, I'm gonna before we start going all into all these questions I'm gonna ask you, I want to give you the floor. So Uh, I know a little bit about you, but I want you to tell us about yourself. What are you doing right now? What awesome things is going on in your life?
Kelly, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. I think so highly of you. So
Aw,
it's definitely an honor for you to even invite me on.
thank you,
So
thank
let's
you.
see, what am I doing now?
Yes.
I am actually running a business.
Okay.
Uh, ADP Virtual Assistant it was officially launched in April, and I have taken off, and I'm having a fantastic time just learning and meeting
It's
amazing
beautiful.
people and just being a business owner.
All right. So now I'm going to jump on in because you are a business owner. First off, let me have you describe to our audience what is it that you do?
Let's see. So basically, I guess to simplify things and not to give it such a big intro, it's basically
Hmm.
an executive assistant working remotely. That's pretty much what I am.
Alrighty.
And as I know that you know, but our listeners don't know, I have a career of about 18 years of building a brand for myself as an executive assistant. And so here I am now just working for myself and offering those services nationwide.
All right. So somebody's been a little bit just on the small side of being humble here. So she's
Mm.
worked at some of the bigger companies in the world. I'm not going to go into any names, but some of the companies on that best to work at list nationally. But we won't go into all of that. At a certain point, you decided you're going to branch out on your own, and you decided that you were going to um, go ahead and start seeking out that dream. So considering that that is usually an undertaking that a lot of people won't do, a lot of people are completely afraid of doing. What made you step out? Like, what made you could have been doing anything else. What made you say, I'm going to jump out into this shark infested ocean here and do your thing?
I would have to say that it starts really way back from when I was a child, actually. I think that I've always been told, I wasn't going to be anything.
Mm,
Um, growing up in the hood, I think you put in the write up in the excerpt that born and raised in Compton,
born and
and
raised.
born and raised Compton. So I think for me, it started early on because I just, you know, with adversity and everything, you're just kind of going through life and you're um, having hurdles that you're needing to jump over and obstacles get in your
Mm,
way. And I've just always had a determination within me to just be great at whatever I do. And so I would say that starting in life with having the challenges and then, going through life being an early mom, mom at 21 and then,
hmm
so I'm walking you through like my life, in a very, high level
Well,
pace.
well,
But,
Well, let's dive in. So you got some challenges early on.
Hmm.
What kind of? I mean, we talk about Compton. Most of us only know Compton through the movies and everything, if that. What kind of challenges are we talking about early on?
I would say everything from gang banging to, drug dealing to, you name it, it's there. And, my mom did a really good job at moving. It was, so I don't have, so I was say, I don't have childhood friendships now in place simply because my mom moved all over the city of Los Angeles just trying to improve our situation.
Sure.
But being a child or a person of the streets, so to speak, at an early
Hmm.
age, I've seen it all. People getting shot and killed, and even at one point in time, I basically was going to sell drugs, and I chose not to because my best friend got murdered. So that was
Okay.
um, but I think with that in mind, when that incident happened, it was a very pivotal point for me in my life
Sure.
because I knew then, number one, I'm not about that life.
Yeah.
Number,
Definitely.
number two, number two, I need to do something better.
Hmm.
Um, and being surrounded by crime and just things that you experience in the hood,
Hmm.
you have two choices. You either become a product of your environment or you break out. And
Gotcha.
so I just refuse to become a product of my environment. And so all of my life, I've just had to just bust through any um, complicated life issues, being a single mom, so what? You know what? I'm an executor, basically. So executing through life, that's kind of what I've been doing.
Hmm.
And leading up to the most current moment of deciding to launch my business was actually being released from employment during COVID. So,
Mm.
you know, I had one or two choices. I could either sink or I could swim.
Mm.
And being faced with, my children are grown now, and I just only have me to worry about in terms of supporting. But being faced with, I can either start submitting applications at 51 years old, or I can launch the business and use the skill set and the gifts and talents that I have
Mm.
acquired over the years, working for some of those top global um, firms. And I've been placed in a position to meet some amazing people who
I
have
like
poured
it.
into me. And I just figured it's time for me to branch out. And I just did. I decided to do so.
Now I know that in the roles you've been in, we're talking about an executive assistant, and I don't know how many people fully understand. I met you through my wife, who's also an executive assistant, and I know the ups and downs and how trying those roles can be. It gives you like this, like there are people who don't do well in those positions. Like I don't think I do very well. I just don't think I'm organized enough,
Mhm.
or patient, or there's a list of things I probably couldn't do well enough to do that job. That being said, you guys are experts in so many fields, and that's the only way that you get like an 18-year, reputation of being able to do that, and especially at some of the bigger companies like that. How did you develop those skills? Where did that come from?
So that started as a young girl, I would say, well, young adult, adolescent at 21 years old.
Hmm.
My mom worked in the legal department of a very well-known, established banking institution, and I didn't have like a college degree, and so, but I didn't want to go flip burgers and fries either. So, what she did was she brought me on and as a clerk. And
Mm.
so I was exposed at the age of 21. I was a new mom.
Hmm.
I was exposed to the corporate world early on at that age. And Kelly, are you there? listening.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go right on ahead. I'm highlighting you. You go right on ahead. Tell your story.
I was like, I can't even hear myself. But then you see, I was like, Kelly, are you there? Um, so anyway, I went ahead and once my mom exposed me to that environment, I took advantage of it. I was working around lawyers and paralegals and other legal clerks, and that is where I think I probably gained a love for just learning different, just fascinated with being surrounded by just books and people who are knowledgeable of so many different things. And so from the age of 21 on up, I've been in the legal industry, the financial planning industry, the
Hmm.
global, consulting industry, the retail industry, and not behind the cash register, like actually that person. Nothing's wrong with people being behind the cash register. I don't, not saying that, but I'm saying that
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
where I gained my business acumen was just being literally submerged and surrounded by individuals in, in very high, positions within the corporate setting. And I'm really an individual that if I have a seat at the table, I'm definitely going to graze right on through that. Any way that I can just gain the knowledge or the way to do something to gain the business sense to leverage myself to be a better individual, I'm going to take advantage of that.
Now, I like that because the whole point of this show, the series of shows that I'm doing is how to win at everything. But this main version of it, this main portion is overcoming yourself. So when I think about that, I think about things like we talked before. Like I was raised on the west side of Chicago, some of the worst neighborhoods in the city and actually in the country. I was in the projects and that sort of thing. So, there are all of these things that are stacked against you when you make that initial decision of you mentioned earlier, either you're going to be a product of your environment or you're going to break away. What is it that you think gives you the ability to break away? Or maybe a better question is, why don't more people do so?
Hmm. Wow. So,
So I know I'm hitting you with the hard ones right up front.
listen, because you know what? I will be honest with you. Like, because I didn't have, like, you hear people who say, well, I can't break out because I don't have the resources. I
Hmm.
didn't have
Hmm.
the resources either. Like, my mother did not, she taught me how to be an amazing, you know, domestic, domesticated individual. Like,
Hmm.
be amazing at paying your bills on time.
Hmm.
But to go to school or anything like that, like she did set me up early on in terms of making sure that, I went to a medical magnet, so
Hmm.
there was my education, that was the foundation. But it's, in terms of, you know, I just knew that I didn't want that for myself. And I don't know that, so I'm going to just say this: you either have it or you don't.
Hmm.
You have it or you don't. You either have it in you to fight through it, or you succumb to what you're given.
Hmm.
And quite frankly, I'm not. I don't hear no. I don't hear the word no. Today, you could tell me no, and that's not the word I hear. I don't. I just am still going to go after it.
What what
Still
do you
going.
hear?
I hear. That's what you think.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't hear, no, you can't. If someone is telling me, if there's an obstacle in front of me, and I don't see obstacles, honestly. And I'm not just saying this because I'm on the camera. I'm saying it because I have walked this life and I know me. So obstacles, yeah, I just think that you just got to bust through them. So your question was, how did I make the decision and what was it within me that could make the decision to get out? It was just that I didn't want that life for myself, um, and it was just being around. The best thing my mother could have ever done was take me out of the, LA Unified School District and put me
mhm,
into, enrolled me into a medical magnet school. There, I was around other individuals who were like-minded. They wanted to
mhm,
learn. That's why it's so important to make sure that our children receive the foundation early and that you
mhm,
place them in the environment of where you want them to go. Because if
mm.
you don't, then they have nothing, they don't have a reference point for that. So that is something that I am so grateful for. And then, but to answer your question, and people, you either have it or you don't. If you're in the hood and you're still in the hood, you're in the hood because you want to stay in the hood. Because if
Oh,
you want to get out of the hood, you can get out of the hood. You can.
well, let me pause you there because you made two different points that I want to jump on. One about this being kind of a choice, but the other thing, because in a lot of ways when people say choice, everybody has a choice. Like there's no gun to your head saying you have to sell drugs or
Right,
whatever. But and here's the thing: even if there were a gun to your head, you can say still no. I'll take the consequences, right?
right,
So we understand that, but then there seems to be a little bit of what ties to that second point you were saying about having a point of reference.
right.
So I know we talked about your mom before and that sort of thing, but it sounds like one of the best things she did was to get you into a different environment. Do you think that having that difference of environment, that difference of point of view, gave you something else to look at? Or do you think that you would have still been able to make it out of there even without that? Because
So,
without knowing you have a choice, without knowing other options, sometimes it feels like you don't have one.
so, so here's the thing. I know, so prior to being exposed to that,
Hmm.
the hood was my life. Walking through alleys to go to school. I didn't hit that environment until like high school. So
Okay.
up until high school, it is what it was. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
I think this is what I think. I think there is it's a combination of several things. I think
Hmm.
that it's either in you to have it. Okay, so you have some people that they're never exposed. How many people do you know that they are self-made millionaires, but they have the drive in them, and it's not because they were
Sure.
exposed to things at an early age. It's just because that's who they are. And
Hmm.
then you have those people who are like me. I had the drive, and I was exposed to it. So I do believe that it takes a combination of it, but it starts with what is your core, what's in
Hmm.
you, and because if you can wake up every day and the drive is to go out there and be a businessman or businesswoman selling your drugs, then guess what you can do? You can be a businesswoman or a businessman owning your own corporation because you're already running a business. It's not a legal business, but you're doing it. So,
Hmm.
I think that it's what you want for yourself. What do you want for yourself? And it
Hmm.
does require you to take a look within. Before I launched my business, I had to really take a long look within myself to be like, all right, can you do this? Are you going to, because now you don't have anyone requiring you to show up to work every day at 8 o'clock.
Hmm.
So now what this means is you have to wake up every day, you have to hold yourself accountable. So you either
Hmm.
have that within or that's either your core or it's not your core. And if you don't
Okay.
have it, then you're not going to be successful.
So that internal accountability, did you always have that?
I did.
Okay, okay. I just work with the group on
Did I,
Saturday.
because the question was, did I always have it?
Yeah.
Did I always adhere to it? Is the thing. No,
No.
I'll be honest, no. I've
Uh,
always had it, but I haven't always adhered to it. No.
no, I think that's no, I think there's a fair distinction. The one of the things I was just working with a class on Saturday, and we were actually talking about external accountabilities versus internal accountabilities, and it's
Mhm.
such an interesting thing because almost everybody has this thing where externally, if there's an expectation. Um, it's the case that it's a lot easier for them to adhere to that, which is why so many of us are good at working jobs. But if
Sure,
you have that internal accountability where you say, I know I need to get this done, so I'm going to get this done. I mean, not that either of them is a bad thing, but
sure,
if you have that internal accountability, it does give you the chance to more easily address what kind of things you want to do.
absolutely.
And for you, you were like, hey, well, let me go ahead and start this business.
Yeah.
Um, so let me dive well, let me go backwards a little bit first,
Okay.
before we start talking about future things.
Mhm.
One of the things that we talked about is you are, let's call it outspoken, right? You're outspoken. You yeah, this is what I heard. I heard a rumor.
What I
Said you
heard.
were outspoken.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
in a world where um people don't feel comfortable being able to tell the truth already. In a world like in a society where this is the case, it's tough to be the person who tells the truth or who says what they really mean. It's even more so the case when you're black, because what we got to understand over this last several months is that being a black person, it is really tough. And a lot of times, before allyship and all of that, what you're getting is a lot of people basically saying, I don't want to say anything because am I going to be looked at as, that person that's being hostile, that sort of thing.
Right.
On the flip side of that, there's also a situation where being a black woman, so there's layers and layers of these things that are saying, don't speak up,
Right.
but you're pretty outspoken.
Pretty much. Hmm.
Why?
Well, I grew up in a household where my mother is was very strict,
Okay.
um, and you speak when spoken to,
Hmm.
and sometimes you just don't speak. It was like I really did not have a voice growing up, and so that was really the case into like my mid 20s. Really, even as a married woman, like I felt like I still was under my mom's thumb in terms of
Hmm.
not being able to have an opinion. And so I'll never forget this. My ex-husband, he had asked me. He said, "Why don't you ask your mom for this particular thing?" I was 26 years old. I was like, "Oh no, I can't." And he said, "What is that? What is that thing that you literally become a 5 year old when it's time to broach a topic, um, like you become withdrawn and you act as though you don't have an opinion or a voice. You do realize you're an adult." And I thought, I didn't even know I was doing that. Like, because I had been that way for so long. And it was from that moment on where I decided that I just was not going to live that life anymore. I was tired of being a doormat, tired of being a pushover. But even though I wasn't a pushover, it came
Hmm.
across that way. Tired of being, always a people pleaser. Um, because what was happening is that I had all these great ideas and these great opinions, but no one really knew. You know,
Hmm.
no one really knew that, like I was really an intelligent individual, but I came across as though I didn't have any knowledge of anything really because I
Hmm.
didn't speak on or let others hear um, what my opinion would be about a certain topic. I oftentimes came across as though I was a follower and not a leader.
Hmm.
And I got
Hmm.
picked on in school because of that. And it was just simply because I was raised to not really have a voice. And so um, I worked through that and worked through that. And I just vowed that I would just never be that person ever again. And so now um, I have learned how to eloquently give my opinions on things. And even though people may not necessarily agree, I've just been taught and coached how to,
Hmm.
give an opinion where people can digest it, where it's a little more digestible. So,
Okay, so let me ask you this now, because one of the issues that comes up with this idea of being outspoken, or even about just being able to voice, not even being outspoken, just being able to express yourself.
mhm,
Um, the problem that a lot of people run into is that it comes with a cost. It
Yes,
comes with a cost. There's
absolutely.
it's not free. It's not, hey, I can say anything I want to and there's no consequence. So
Right.
so have you gone through that? Have you experienced consequences because of telling the truth or saying what's on your mind?
Absolutely. Um, I've lost friendships. I've lost business opportunities, even as early as recently with ADP virtual assistant. Um, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like it's
Hmm.
okay. I have to stay true to who I am. I've had moments even in the corporate setting and being an executive assistant supporting a very high profile individual, and having to tell that person, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. That's now you're impeding on my integrity.
Sure.
Um, and here I am, a business owner of ADP virtual assistant because of
Mm.
that.
So So I got an idea about what you're going to say about why, but how why is that the case? Now I get that you say, hey, well, I've gone through the situation where I felt like I was beat down for years over trying to express myself. What
Mhm.
even with the consequences, then what do you think gives you that strength to keep on doing it? Because you're suffering through some things,
Yeah,
but you're still doing it.
because you know what, it's like this thing in me. I just cannot be something that someone doesn't want me. Like I can't be. I have to be true to April every day. I have to wake up every day and like who I see. I have
Hmm.
to live by example because I have three children that, they're adults now. So here I am telling them, you have a voice, you need to stay true to your integrity, stay true to what you believe, never allow anyone to box you in.
Hmm.
Um, if you have a goal and you articulate what your beliefs are and things of that nature, just make sure that you can back those up. And so every day I have to like me. That's important. I've done a lot of work in that area in terms of
Hmm.
building up my self esteem because growing up believing that I didn't have a voice and that I couldn't really voice my opinion, it did a lot to my self esteem. And so because I've done the work over the years where no, I have a voice and it's okay for me to have an opinion. I just will never go back to that person. So every single day I wake up, just walking in my truth, whether
Hmm.
I am the only black person in the room sitting at the table, or I mean, because I will speak on that. If I'm ever given an opportunity, if you ask me a question, I'm gonna tell you the answer,
Hmm.
and it may be uncomfortable for you, but it's not uncomfortable for me, and that's okay.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, so now that leads me into this other idea then, because you talked about having to work on your self-esteem. Um, Beyond just being black and being a woman, where we understand that there are some systematic issues with self-esteem and belief and that sort of thing. Just
Right.
nationwide in our society, at the very least, there are a lot of issues with esteem and we're basically told assimilate, or if you're different, there's something wrong with you, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
When it comes to you building up your self-esteem over the years, when did you start? How did that start? And what are you doing to get to a point where you have enough belief in yourself and value in yourself that you're able to actually speak up?
So I would say probably within the last 10 years, I've seriously been working on that within myself and
Hmm.
therapy and prayer. I mean, the two. Those are the two that therapy, is key. I think that um, when it starts from your childhood. So
Hmm.
whatever foundation you start out with, that's you're gonna carry that through life. So I needed to first you have to even identify that you have an issue, because if you are not willing to accept that and embrace whatever your issues are, then you're going to forever be stagnant within your walk. And so for me, um, drawing closer to God and having a relationship with God and going to therapy, those are the things that really keeps April centered.
Hmm.
and it keeps me working on my self esteem. And so in the therapy sessions, I am literally having to peel back every layer of the onion, and not until you're able to peel back all of those layers and get to the core of what of who you are, can you then flourish in life and become that great individual that you are destined to be. And it doesn't really matter what walk you've had in life. Like you can literally overcome anything. You
Hmm.
just need to understand that therapy is something that you just may need to um, bring, just couple that with everything else that you're doing to improve yourself. In the black community, we don't view therapy as something that's helpful. We view it as
What?
something that is a weakness, defined weakness, exactly. And
Yeah.
so I am an advocate for therapy. I think,
So am I.
especially black women, we go to therapy. I'm just saying it. Work out the little kinks that you have. Work on the
Hmm.
self-esteem. I know that had I not done any of the work on myself, I would not be the owner of ADP Virtual Assistant. I wouldn't even
Hmm.
have um, the drive, the determination, the confidence that I have. I mean, I talk to CEOs all day, every day,
Yep.
who they need an assistant. I'm in I'm in meetings with very powerful individuals who run companies, and guess what? I'm one of them, and it's different to be on this side of things. Whereas before I was the person setting up the meetings, and now I'm
Hmm.
actually the
Hmm.
person sitting at the table in those meetings.
Hmm.
And that's powerful. It's powerful. It's different. Yeah, it's different.
Let me ask a question about therapy. Um, was there, and I'm pretty certain I know the answer already, but was there a point where you had to give in to this idea of forgiveness?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because specifically black women. My guest tomorrow is Tangela, and I want to say Smith, but I forget your name. I'm sorry, Tangela. But she mentions she showed me this picture of it's like this cartoon of black women. And everyone is making this point like, oh, you're so strong, black woman. You're so strong, black woman, and nobody's willing to help her. And she's like in a pool of water, and she's like, hey, help, so but because of this sense that you have to be strong all the time,
yeah.
it's a case that nobody asks for help, and because of the case there's no asking for help, or not as much need to ask for help. One of the things that happens is that people can become super resentful. I mean, not only do we have a lot of things, and this is American culture, honestly, a lot of places where we don't get what we need, and there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of feelings, a lot of emotion. I don't know how much you're willing to share about your personal journey, but as far as forgiveness itself, like
Hmm.
what have you had to learn about that and about letting go of those things?
You see the smile on my face?
Hmm.
That smile, because as I'm listening to you lead up to like the question, I'm smiling because I'm just grateful that God gave me a heart that forgives really easily. I mean, super easily.
Hmm.
It's weird, and I think a lot of people are
It's
weird.
weird.
I think people are weird by how easily I do forgive, and I mean, really. I've only had probably two times, two or three. I'll say three times in my life where it was really challenging for me to forgive.
Hmm.
Uh, this one particular individual who I just, I could, I this particular person, and I know the purpose now. I know why I had to meet that individual, but it was an experience that I literally took it back to the hood, to the days in the hood where I was like ready.
You got to throw hands.
Like seriously. Um, But I had not been at that point in my life in years, and it was scary because I had thought I had done all the work, and I didn't think I could get there anymore. But I would say that forgiveness comes extremely, extremely, extremely easy for me,
Hmm.
um, and it's something that you have to do. If you do not, you know, figure out how to do that, you're going to
Hmm.
stay stuck. And I
Hmm.
will tell you that even though that moment took me to the point of where I was just ready to cause physical harm to that individual, I knew that I couldn't stay stuck there. And
Hmm.
so I stopped I therapy, go to therapy, and you just deal with the anger, you deal with the hurt, and you deal with it all. And you
Hmm.
need to also understand that any and everything that you go through, 9 times out of 10, it's linked to your childhood, one way or
Hmm.
the other. Like if you can just figure out what that thing is and what your triggers are, when you figure out what that is and you're able to identify it, it really does help the forgiveness process,
Hmm. Hmm.
because then you understand the root of why you're even so angry in the first place.
Interesting. So with that being said, what do you think is the main thing that's led to your success with therapy, with your executive career, all of that? What do you think is the main reason for that?
I have a heart to serve. Um, I'm humble. I think having the ability to really just every single day, I'm self-reflecting.
Hmm.
And so with that, all you can do is win, win, win. As long as you're self-reflecting, you're making sure that you are holding yourself accountable
Hmm.
and pushing through, stretching yourself beyond your comfort zone is important. You've got
Uh,
to stretch yourself. You have to. If you stay within this box, you're just as good at what's inside of that box. That's it. There's a
mm,
world outside of the box. And so,
it's interesting.
I have to know what's on the outside of the box. And so what ends up happening is as long as what has brought me this far to be as successful as I am is being humble, making sure, you treat others with kindness, um, having a heart to serve, um, and, and being okay with entering into uncharted waters. Maybe it's something that you
Yeah.
have never, ever had to deal with and you don't really know. Maybe it's something you don't know about the culture or even the line of business or
Hmm.
anything of that nature. Like I'm a reader, so I enjoy reading it. Well, I would say I'm more of a researcher. So if it's something, I need to know the why about everything. So
Yeah.
um, I just do. And so stretch your knowledge, challenge yourself. You know, um, have conversations with individuals that you would normally not have a conversation with.
Mm.
Yeah, like pick that person out. Who would that be in your life? And you'd be surprised of the information and the knowledge that you gain from others. Be willing to listen, and I think that has also been the success helped me reach the success that I have with that.
Now, what I find super interesting about this is that the stuff that you're mentioning, like it just rolls off. Like, well, forgiveness and dealing with your anger and being self-reflective, and I
Yeah.
mean, I know people who are in therapy for years and who never get this. Um, I, to me, it starts to become a little bit more about how do you get to that point where you can actually start addressing those things, because that's scary. I know people who are in their 60s, 70s at this point, and if you talk to them about something pertaining to their childhood, they will all out try to run from you, or they'll
Mhm.
be angry at you, or they'll try to fight because there's so much. emotion and intensity and hurt
Yeah.
trapped in those things. uh, when we start talking about your success, I know we can talk about all the new clients that you have and that sort of thing. To me, this is where you really start to shine and where you really start to show where you're successful, because it's it's obviously not impossible to do this, but
Right.
there are a lot of people who find it's hard enough to do that. They're not doing it. They're still hurting themselves because of the fact that they can't get rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
If when so put on your therapy hat, put on
Okay.
your therapy hat, and if I'm somebody who I've gone through being raised in abuse, and I've been in a situation where, I've lacked and I've been poor, hungry, and I've gone through some of these things that some of these people have gone through.
Okay.
What do you tell me to say to convince me to go get some therapy, to pray, to help myself, to look introspectively? What do you tell me?
Um, I would first ask you, or I think I would first ask you, you know, how do you feel about yourself every day when you wake up? You know,
Hmm.
um, and based on that answer, nine times out of ten, if someone is going through something, um, usually when I'm having this conversation with an individual, we're having a conversation about maybe some events that have taken place in their
Hmm.
life, like in their current situation. Um, and I instantly connect the dots for them. And once I lead them literally back to their childhood, it's like a light bulb on.
Mm.
And then I say to them, until you start to deal with the things, the events within your childhood, your adult life is going to be a wreck. It
Hmm.
just is. Like it's just that simple. And so if you want the healing process to start, then you know I would suggest seeking God. If you are not a person of faith, then I would suggest going to get therapy. And if you are a person of faith, then therapy and prayer together.
Hmm.
And then I've even brought people to church with me, because sometimes maybe they need to hear it from others. Maybe they just need
Sure.
to be in that surrounding. But if you were a person and I didn't know anything about you and I'm listening to you because it happens to me more often than not that a
Mm.
perfect stranger will just end up telling me like their deep dark secrets,
Hmm.
then I tend to really just dive in and ask the questions that people who are around them are afraid to ask simply
Mm.
because there it is again, because I'm not afraid, because I'm
Mm.
really okay with asking uncomfortable questions. And so, you know, once you prick that a little
Hmm.
bit, I find that they're like, oh, right? And then it's like, you know what? If you're already starting to talk to me about it, just at the small scale, imagine if you were to just go ahead and just start gradually having a conversation with a therapist. It's just that simple.
Hmm.
It's not hard. It's literally just having the conversation with a person who is just not going to judge you, period.
Mm.
It's a very, unjudgmental conversation. So, yeah.
I feel like you should keep your therapy hat on more often. I think you may have missed that one. You, Dr. Patterson over here. Okay.
Dr.
Yeah.
Patterson.
Look, I think
Whoa.
I think
I
that
think
that
that's
may.
respect. You should ask my kids that.
Yeah.
Oh man, oh
Yeah.
goodness.
I feel like the
Hmm.
kids can always give a different answer.
They do.
Um,
Yeah, they do.
so some of the things that I know about you is that you are in this in this good sort of place of trying to help people. I even heard a rumor about you posting something on Facebook where you're like, "Hey, don't be ashamed, blah blah blah. if you are in need of food during this COVID or whatever, like, hey, don't be ashamed. Hit me up. Tell me about that.
Um, that's just who I am, Kelly. Honestly, I have opened my
Well,
home.
well,
You
well,
want
well.
to say
First, tell me what happened that started that. I'm sorry. Let me start you from
what
the beginning.
happened that started that is that so I there was a family um, who I haven't met in person, but we are friends on Facebook. But
Hmm.
I know them through someone else. And so
Hmm.
this family had a business and they had to close their business because of COVID. And, you know, they had been in business for like 25 years.
Mm,
And they were a neighborhood business, and due to COVID, they couldn't keep their doors open anymore. And so I just I, based off the posts and things of that nature, not that they were asking for help because they weren't. Um, I just could, I just could imagine like, all right, so you have this man who I know is a man, like he's a man, right? And you
mm-hmm,
have a wife, and you have two sons, and you, you and your wife had this business, and now this business no longer exists, right? So
mm,
now it's not just one person in the household who's out of work, it's the both of you.
mm-hmm,
And I could see like through their posts that they were just like leaning on their faith, doing everything that they can, being, there for each other. And it was just like, because I just really love to help people. I sent them a message, hey, I'd like to do something nice for you, and would you mind sending me your address? And so, I went on to, what is it, Instacart, ordered a bunch of groceries, went to Amazon. She couldn't, she was like, she really hadn't pampered herself in years. I bought her a little, like a foot spa or something like that, and it just like it was in my heart. Like it was like that's what I was supposed to do for them.
mm,
I didn't know though that they didn't really have food in their
mm,
fridge. I thought they did because literally my first message was, I know you guys probably have a ton of food already. Is there a bill that I can pay for you?
mm-hmm,
And she said, actually, we don't have a ton of food. Like, I don't know where you got that from,
mm-hmm,
type of
mm-hmm,
thing. And I was like, oh, so, I bought a couple of hundred dollars of groceries or whatever. And then, so that was like a few months ago. And then, so probably a few weeks ago, that, um, same thing. I saw a post that it was a blurb that literally said that exact same thing. And so I shared that because that's where my heart is. My heart is
no,
just that. I've been the person standing in the line at the food bank. I know with my children, I know what that's like. I know what it's like to not have. I know what it's like to not be able to pay your rent. I know what it's like to just live without
mm-hmm,
well, not getting evicted, but being close to, getting evicted. I know what it's like. And I, you know, we were put on this earth to serve each other, period.
mm.
That's why we're here.
Now, now, what I find kind of interesting slash, I'm just going to go skip on into amazing about this. You were laid off from your job, right? You,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
so when you get laid off, you start thinking about how to help other people, and I gotta admit that feels like something that's lacking. Like obviously, there are plenty of great people, and on LinkedIn, some of them are making comments right now. Some of the people I know are making comments right now. Some of the
Mm,
best people, but there seems to be at the very least, a a sense of selfishness or taking care of myself or it wasn't until recently we could even get paper towels at the store because somebody decided, hey, let me take all the hand sanitizer and paper towels, buy them
Right.
all up, and then try to resell
Mhm.
them on the internet for a
Yeah,
400%
exactly.
increase. Uh, so when it comes to you, obviously this is something that's real to you because it's something that you're putting out of your own pocket after you're already in whatever bind you're in. What makes that person? So, I mean, because I get that you've been through some stuff, but a bunch of people have. They typically say, I've been bullied, let me bully people. I was picked on, let me pick on people. I've been robbed, let me become, more powerful. So why do you do it the way you're doing it?
Mm, so I think that I really was just born this way. I don't even know, because I can just remember when I was a kid, like literally I had 7 dogs because I brought home every stray dog. And my mom was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can barely feed you. I need you to stop bringing home these dogs. And I just, my grandmother on my dad's side, Mama Jerry,
Hmm.
was blind. I mean, born blind. So all of her life, she went through life really just having to rely on people. And but she was like the strength of wow, like I don't even know. Like she gave and gave and gave and gave. Like I've always been around like elderly people that's kind of what they did. They just always gave. And so
Hmm.
I would say it started there, just in my early childhood, just being in that environment with my grandparents, like my grandmother, and just being taught that, you know, you got to pay it forward. You need to help people, with that thing it takes a village. Like it truly does take a village, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and that and really and truly like from buying a homeless person a meal to whatever it is, you don't have a place to live, come on in. My kids told me I cannot do that anymore. Like you are done. Like stop bringing home these stray people. But my mom would tell me, you are not Florence Nightingale. Like you
Hmm.
cannot save everyone, but you know, I I try to go through life still trying to save everyone, really and
Yeah.
truly.
Yeah.
If I can save one person at a time, I know it's a big world, but if I can, I will definitely try. So anytime that I can have any sort of impact on someone,
Hmm.
to show them that the world there are still kind people in this
Hmm.
world. And so that's just kind of who I am. I would say,
I, I
yeah.
think that's awesome. I was also a kid who had a gang of strays. We had an enclosed back porch, and we would like sneak them all upstairs. Like me and a couple of the neighbors, we'd sneak
Mm-hmm.
them upstairs, and we had like 9 kittens at one point. Uh,
That's
I
really
also
pretty
know, yeah. But see, here's the thing, though. My parents are like, "All right, we can keep the cats, but then you got to go." So we had to get rid of the cats.
good. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
I I I really appreciate the kind of person you're choosing to be, April. I feel like um, there's a lot of people who so first off, I think everybody gets a choice. I just think that a lot of times we don't recognize that we get a choice. And once we don't, it's almost the same thing as not having a choice. So I want to broadcast people who are one, recognizing their choice, but then two, using that choice to say, I'm gonna do something really good with this. I'm gonna be a better person. I'm gonna make things better. So let me ask you this, and this will be one of the last things I'll ask you here. Uh, it's your last day. You're on your deathbed. Um, Nothing else left. How do you know that you won? How do you know that you live the best life you can live? What did that life look like? Can you describe it to me?
That life looks like nurturing every person that I come in contact to know that they matter.
that was it. That
So
was
that
it. That was how you
yeah,
know.
yeah, to just leverage every person that I come in contact with to be their best self.
Hmm. Now I want to
I can
tell you,
do that, then I know that I've won.
yeah, which I think is funny. I have this my hashtag I use on LinkedIn is lead with love. And I got this what it sounds like is kind of similar is this idea that everybody who I come in contact with, I want to give them love. I
Okay.
want to, and it's, I know for a lot of people it sounds corny and it sounds unachievable, but the reality to me is that if I'm loving to you, then now there's a better chance of you being loving to the next person or
Yeah.
loving being, giving me love back. And if we were to actually do that, it stops making it so easy for us to be bullied and then bully other people. It kind of helps us to put an end to that way of thinking. So I want to tell you, I definitely appreciate the fact that you seem to be in a similar place. You're getting your love on.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm a love. I love to love. I love love. Like it's so easy. It's really easy to love.
you think everything is easy. I feel like everybody I've run into is kind of like, nope, love is hard, hate is easy,
Yeah,
being cynical is really tough. I don't like it. Uh,
I mean, stop
uh,
obstacles. I think that's what people should stop doing. Don't obstacles are they're just false
opportunities.
appearing real. It's
Yeah,
fear. That's all
yeah.
it is. So I just have not lived my life in fear at all,
hmm
under no circumstances. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, all right, before we go, April, I want to make sure that we get a chance to tell everybody how they can find you, where they can reach you, where's the best places to work with you.
You can reach me. I just recently actually launched my page on Instagram and Facebook, so you can reach me at ADPVA on both Instagram and Facebook. So that's at ADPVA, and on LinkedIn at April Patterson, or you can simply type in ADP Virtual Assistant, and it'll show
hmm
up there as well. If you feel like to reach me on email, feel free to do so at AprilDPatterson@Outlook.com. That's AprilDPatterson@Outlook.com. And my website address is www.adpva.com.
And you guys know she's saying 80, 80.
Like the number 80, and then
Right.
it's P like Peter, V as in Victor A, the number 80, P, V A.
All right. Last thing, April, give us something to go home to. Give us a final message for you.
I would say live your life being true to who you are. Never allow anyone to tell you what you cannot do. Wake up every single day proving those naysayers wrong and making sure that you execute at your best.
All right, guys, you heard it here first. April, you hold on for a second. I'm going to play us out, and then I'm going to talk to you backstage.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Terry, for having me on.
Definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ta-da!